How's it going, everyone? My name's Graham, and welcome to Flashlight, a series where I look at the history and evolution of old Flash series here on the internet. Today, I want to look at Fancy Pants Adventures, a Flash series of highly influential, breakneck platformers that have been slowly perfected for over a decade. You play as Fancy Man, our humble stick figure hero sporting a spiky do and extraordinarily fancy pants from the town of Squigglesville. Over the last 11 years, through 4 main games, 1 spin-off, and 1 remake, creator Brad Bourne has used Fancy Pants to push the limits of Flash games while escalating a simple time-killing platformer into a deeply satisfying world of precise controls and thrilling gameplay. This is Fancy Pants Adventures. It all started with the release of Fancy Pants Adventures World 1 in March 2006. The game was short and simple and could have easily been lost among 1,000 other generic Flash platformers. But Flash platformers at the time were plagued with stale animations and often floaty controls. Fancy Pants stood out with its fun main character, detailed animations, and console-worthy precision. World 1 cracked open what were seen as the limits of Flash-based platformers with its smooth, free-running style gameplay. The game may have had tight programming, but Brad was no artist. But while a sketchy-looking background may hurt some games, it went hand in hand with Fancy Man being a stick figure sketch himself. As a fun little aside, the end boss, Polly Penguin, was done by Brad's friend, Paul Downs, because Brad felt that he wouldn't be able to do it himself. This sketchy art style was originally due to Brad's own abilities, but it was eventually integrated into the larger world and lore of Fancy Pants Adventures. World 1 may not have been perfect, but it stood out among the competition. The game rewarded exploration, providing extra challenge rooms, and the ability to demo the wall jumping mechanic that was originally saved for World 2. Despite the lack of a real story, there was a strong air of possibility and the promise of so much more to come for this series. As strong as Brad's engine was, it was partially bogged down by some limitations of his early programming, such as the scripted jumps which took away the option for aerial control, and the feel of acceleration and direction changes hadn't quite been nailed down for our hero yet. This original level was laid out more like a tech demo with some jarring stops and often unfair enemy placements. As a whole, the enemies felt largely unnecessary to the experience. But while developing a new engine for World 2, Brad returned to his original creation and applied some extra polish. This includes simple fixes like less audio compression and a higher animation frame rate, but he also updated the engine to match the upcoming game. The controls became even snappier, more responsive, and he fixed the nearly entirely broken wall jumping. It was almost 2 full years after the original that we saw the release of World 2 in January 2008. Instantly, you can feel the tightened engine and improved mechanics. Turning, jumping, and sliding all feel much more natural and are complemented with more complete aerial control. There are also a few new mechanics like ledge gripping and platform hanging. World 2 really showed an increased focus on momentum and timing. The series was taking strong notes from the early Sonic games, with speed and control being the driving forces behind the gameplay. This was the most noticeable when running through oil-slicked areas, reaching insane speeds. I stated that the original game felt almost console-worthy, while suddenly the game started to rival and surpass some console platformers. Here we are playing a simple free Flash game, barreling down oil slicks, doing huge flips, or messing up and feeling the shame of having to run back up that slick. The complexity of the gameplay and that complementary animation were unheard of in the Flash world. On top of all the platforming, there's even this goofy, fancy golf minigame that emerged during the beta testing of World 2. There's this one particular snail enemy that you can kick and juggle his shell to hit other enemies. Beta testers began to issue challenges to each other to guide and kick the shells to difficult to reach areas of the level. The final game integrates the snail shell golfing challenge, and using it to unlock bonuses like alternate pants colors. One of my favorite additions was the guest levels made by other popular Flash artists at the time, including the Swain, Lewis, Tommy LM, and more. This may have been a way for Brad to get around having to do more complex art himself, or to experiment with new styles, but that artistic variety lent itself well to the idea of Fancy Man being a sketch in an artist's world. In April 2011, we saw the release of the Fancy Pants Adventures on PlayStation and Xbox. Brad worked with over-the-top games to refine World 1 and 2, implement new levels, and add multiplayer functionality. Brad was insistent that this was not World 3, but that World 3 would utilize this improved engine and be downscaled to work as another free Flash game. While this console game was praised for the same reasons the original Flash series had been, including tight controls and fun parkour-like platforming, most of the expansions to the series were somewhat criticized. The addition of weapon-based combat slowed things down and felt out of place, and the game just wasn't designed for a complete multiplayer experience. Brad himself has stated that he felt the inclusion of multiplayer took away from the core gameplay, something that guided his decision to keep the game a strictly single-player experience ever since. We can also thank this installment for the introduction of further pants customizations and hats. And believe me, those are very important additions to the series. A full year later, in April 2012, we finally saw the release of World 3, with Fancy Pants returning to its roots as a free Flash game. Here's where we see the full potential of Brad and Fancy Pants adventures finally emerge. This is the first world to attempt a semi-complex story, with Fancy Man trying to rescue his little sister from a band of pirates, but story's never been the true focus of the series, and it has as little importance to this game as it did the first two. The free running and momentum have never felt better, with improvements to both gameplay and, more importantly, the level designs. All enemies have been altered to allow for different ways of dispensing of them other than stomping on their heads. This freed up the ability to more easily flow into slide and kick combos without any jarring interruptions. And it actually made the enemies a fun addition for a change. Like these frog guys that I couldn't help but take a minute to punt around. It's just plain fun. Speaking about level design, there's the option to chain together segments of running, diving, and jumping until you reach the level's ending, but it is so much more rewarding to explore. There are often various branches to be discovered which take you through all new areas of thrilling platforming, some of which include mechanics that are only applicable to that one area. This division reminds me of the high-low splits that we see in old Sonic levels, where you choose your own path and sometimes have it chosen for you based on skill. The difference is Fancy Pants never limits you. If you want to return to a past level or make the climb back up to a higher part of a level, there are options to do that. So you can run straight for that door, or you can spend 10 minutes trying to complete a very complex red coin style challenge of quick reflex based platforming for a small aesthetic reward. The game even introduced this really well executed wall run mechanic and some surprisingly fun swimming based levels. But seriously, it's hard to go back to earlier installments trying to chain together wall jumps without this precise wall running included. It adds to that feeling of non-stop movement, that this character is just bursting with this force and energy driving him forward. World 3 also fully realizes the concept of Fancy Man and his world being a sketch, with the introduction of the pencil. As a weapon, it's not that fun to use, it feels a little underutilized, but it really reinforces this concept. In November 2014, we were treated to Fancy Pants Adventures World 1 Remix, a complete remake of World 1, showcasing the new and improved engine being crafted for World 4. You start in a familiar looking setting, but with minimal exploring, you'll begin to find creative ways that Brad broke open World 1 to expand it to be so much more than just a rehash of the original. I especially like the tongue-in-cheek, no one ever liked level 3, as he uses his pencil to change the level as you're playing it. It's a great way to bring things full circle and to show exactly how far the series had come in nearly 9 years' time. The art, animation, sound, gameplay, and most of all, design sensibilities have all improved so much in that time. Now, Fancy Man has a few small appearances outside of his 3 main adventures and their remakes or revisits. In 2008, he was added as a playable character in Newgrounds Rumble, with Brad providing all the movesets and animations himself. And in 2015, we were treated to a simple mobile game that acted as a way to tide over fans waiting for World 4. It's a well-made game with the usual precision and strong design sense we've come to expect, but it wasn't a proper Fancy Pants adventure. 2012 was the last full installment in the Fancy Pants Adventure series, and 2014 was the last time we had a proper outing of any sorts with Fancy Man. Until now, because coming to Steam this year, we will at long last be treated to the next proper installment of this beloved series with Super Fancy Pants Adventures, slated for a September 2017 release. There's going to be 56 total levels, a brand new pen weapon set to improve on the flaws of the pencil, new moves, new challenges, new modes, but there will be no multiplayer since the focus is being put on making a perfected single-player experience. Brad has said he doesn't want to insert 100 new mechanics or gimmicks. The focus is definitely going to be on refining what we've seen before. And I'm perfectly okay with that. If you ask me, that's the only way I'd want to have it. While trying to think of a good way to summarize things for Super Fancy Pants Adventures, I came across a nice quote on the Steam page. I altered things slightly, but it says, Brad Bourne started this series over 10 years ago as a young indie developer working to redefine video game platforming by making speed and tight controls feel compatible. Over the years, he's honed his craft, turning his Fancy Pants games into a worldwide phenomenon with over 100 million plays and becoming one of the top online games of all time. This newest version, Super Fancy Pants Adventures, is a culmination and a reimagining of the series into a full-fledged title. I don't think there's a better way to sum it up than that. I hope you guys all remember Fancy Pants as fondly as I do, and that you're equally excited for the release of this full game. I can't wait to play it and to show my support to Brad for 10 wonderful years of free Flash gaming. It's mind-blowing that he's remained this dedicated to his fans and to his craft. Now hike up those fancy pants of yours, and get ready to join me on another wild run with Super Fancy Pants Adventure. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope that you did enjoy the video. I've only made 2 of these flashlight videos before, one in a similar style, one in something totally different. I'm still kind of experimenting with the series. I'm trying to gear it towards being more of like an overview or a chronicling rather than a review. I'm still fine-tuning this series and trying to find that nice middle ground that I'm shooting for. So I would really love some feedback from you guys. Now, episodes of the series do take a long time to put together, significantly longer than the usual Let's Plays on the channel. I can't guarantee them with any sort of consistency, unfortunately. This channel does have a Patreon though, and I'm gonna add this as a new stretch goal, that if I hit a certain goal to be determined, that I'll then make installments of this series monthly. And increased tiers from there mean more installments of Flashlight, more animated videos on the channel, more live streams, basically any extra complicated form of content. I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys. I'm super excited about Super Fancy Pants Adventures. I'm gonna have links to all that down below. Hopefully I'll be able to do a Let's Play of it when the game comes out. That'll be pretty awesome. Alright, thank you guys all so much. I'll see you again soon.